What's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Nation's Quick Save. I am Matt Aguilar, and I have the wonderful Mark Deschamps with me today to talk about Knuckles. What's up, buddy?
How's it going, man?
Going good, going good. As we were talking about before the stream even started, which, by the way, thank you for everyone joining us on the impromptu thing. We always love to keep people on their toes, doing these fun things all throughout the week. A couple of us are very excited, big Sonic fans here, and very excited to talk about this series. If you have not heard of it, Knuckles is obviously a spinoff of the popular Sonic movie franchise, which just delights me to say, which is, of course, a spinoff of the mega popular game franchise. And this is actually the first spinoff television series on Paramount Plus at the end of this week. But you know, some very lucky people here got the chance to watch some episodes early and give you our impression on the series. Before we start, though, I gotta say, this is just one thing we got to know. Mark, we'll start with you. Who is your favorite Sonic character? Like, period, in the franchise?
That's a tough question. I mean, I'm a Blue Blur guy myself. I really love
That's
Sonic,
good.
but I will say Knuckles was like the edge that got me to buy a Sega Genesis as a kid. Like I had a Game Gear and the Sonic Happy Meals came out at
Yeah.
McDonald's and Sonic 3 wasn't on Game Gear. And so like I saw Knuckles. Knuckles was so cool, right? Like in like 1994, like Knuckles was a big deal. And I said to my mom, I'm like, I kind of want a Genesis. And it was Sonic from there and it was Knuckles from there. So Knuckles has a dear place in my heart.
Yeah, as a a double stack cart fan myself, I my first system was a Genesis, so I've always had a love and affection for anything Sega. Just because that's where my video game story started, and Sonic was a huge part of that. I I was always a fan of Tails. Actually, was probably my favorite character before Knuckles. And then when like, because there's like there's like an AD and a BC. It's like before. So after Knuckles though, it was over. Like I was like, oh my god, like Knuckles is it. It's just I don't know what it is, right? It's the you get like the slightly edgy turtle, right? Like even though Donatello's my favorite
Same.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, Raphael, I understand like has a special place in people's hearts because he's the edgy one, and Knuckles was the edgy one, and he brought that little bit of fierceness to the franchise. So I adore Knuckles, and it was always one of those things where when we got the movie, and it was hey, Idris Elba is gonna voice this character. I lost my mind because also I'm a big, who's not a big Idris Elba fan. And then when like you see how those two combine, and it's just I don't know, it's just one of those match made in heaven. So when we get a series that's announced, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, it was going to be fun, and the movies have been really funny and kind of comedic based. But just Knuckles' power set and stuff is always really interesting. So I guess when we came into this, I didn't have much expectation other than like, hey, I want to see more Knuckles. And so far we'll get into obviously this is going to be a non-spoiler review. So don't worry, we're not going to go into, a bunch of things. We might lightly touch on some things, but other than that, you're safe as far as that goes. But I kind of got what I wanted in a very like almost buddy comedy buddy cop comedy kind of way here. I guess what did you feel? Well, number one, what was your expectation going into this, and then what did you feel about how the series kind of came out for you?
It was tough because going in, I didn't know what I wanted.
Okay.
I love the two Sonic movies. They were both just such pleasant surprises, especially after there was the whole controversy with, Ugly Sonic and everything. It was just such a nice surprise that that first movie was as good as it was. So I just was happy that we were going to get more. And so I didn't know exactly what I wanted from this. And that
Same.
kind of worked out because the series really plays against your expectations of what a Knuckles series is going to be. So I went in very low not I don't want to say low expectations because Jeff Fowler has done such a great job building up this Sonic cinematic universe. It's funny because no one has really been successful with the cinematic universe outside of Marvel, but Sega of all companies is like pulling it off.
Yeah,
And
for
Paramount,
real.
like, that's bizarre. It's weird to say, um, but Jeff Fowler has really established this world, and it was funny because the first episode of the show, it's really kinda like a warm blanket. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh my god, here's Ben Schwartz as Sonic, here's Colleen O'Shaughnessy as Tails, you know, here is Maddie," and, like, here's Green Hills, and it's just like, "Oh, I missed you." Like, I didn't realize how much I missed them, and it's only been, 2 years, but,
right.
like, I'm like, "Wow, I've missed this world." And Wade, who I've been an Adam Pally fan for a few years now, since the mini project, and I really liked him in the first 2 Sonic movies. I know he was comedic relief, but he's there's just something about him that's very charming, and I was when I heard that he was going to be, like, the second lead of this show, I was really pumped for that. I'm like, "You know what? That's great." Like, I'm totally up
Yeah.
for seeing more Wade, but I wasn't expecting what we got, and that was a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think you make some great points because I think so for me, I feel like the best term is probably I went in with a very open mind. I
Yeah,
didn't know exactly what I wanted, and I didn't have low expectations. I have right, like I went in with high. I love this character, but I went in with like I just want to see what they do, and I'm hoping that it will click with me, and it very much did that first episode. And ironically, we can get into a couple of spoilers because they're in the trailer, which is great. Reminded me. So this whole sequence that you see right there, there's like a good chunk of this trailer. It's actually from the first episode. It's probably from the first 20 minutes. Um, it's that whole interaction between them is just such a great way to start this thing. The whole thing with the house and Knuckles, and now by the way, like I'm gonna be quoting things like Chip. Like those are there's a whole opening thing with Knuckles and Chips. That's fantastic. So like it's just I laughed out loud multiple times throughout that
yeah,
entire first episode. And I think it does a really good job of we talk about first episodes all the time on Comic Nation, right? And how they're so important. And this one does such a good job of like setting the tone for the series because it sets up both sides and you know exactly what this is. You have a good idea of what this is going to be as far as like the format, and then they twist stuff up along the way, but it gives you a good solid foundation. Like if you don't like the first episode, you're probably not going to, the rest of the series is not going to jive with you. And I agree with you. I think Wade, like that is such a perfect character to bounce off of Knuckles. It highlights all the things that he did so well in the movies, but then you give him there's again I won't give this part away, but there's like a drop of a personal moment or a personal revelation that happens really early that I went like I it took me aback because I wasn't expecting it, and like that actually forms the foundation for those two to really start growing as characters and their relationship and stuff. So like there's real meat and potato stuff there amongst all of the really high fun action. You're seeing some of it here, and then also just really great comedic moments. But I mean, I'm not kidding. I laughed throughout this entire series quite a bit, and not in a like, oh, that's supposed to make me laugh. Like I genuinely laughed out loud. There's some great moments.
yeah, no, I agree 100% with you, and I'm not gonna spoil this, and I'm gonna warn people already. There's already some spoilers out there for this, which I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
guys,
man,
come on."
bummer.
Like, there are a couple
Yeah.
reviewers who are, like, playing a little too fast and loose. The 4th episode is really when this show totally won me over. Because, like, episode 1, real great introduction, and, like, 2 and 3, I'm like,
Hmm.
"Okay, what are they doing here?" Like, it's funny because the show very much plays against expectations. Before this came out, I saw a couple people online, saying, "This just sounds like the plot of the first Sonic movie." Because on the surface, it's like, okay, you have a human character, you have, you have Knuckles with him, you have, agents that are after them because they want to use the quill powers, and there's a
Right.
mad scientist. It all sounds like the first Sonic movie. And it kind of all I don't want to say it goes out the window, but it's very much like, this is how we get you in the door, and actually this is
Hmm.
what we really want to do. And that fourth episode is mind blowing. It's I want to compare it to like Adult Swim, but it's still like all ages friendly. Like my
Yeah.
jaw hit the floor like 4 times in that fourth episode. And it's just so
Yes.
wild. It's a bizarre show, and I say that in the most endearing, most you know loving way possible. It's bizarre, and I love that.
Well, and I think to your, we've been having this debate a lot lately because of the streaming number of streaming projects and streaming shows, right? This whole binge versus weekly release discussion. And I think in this case, because Knuckles will release all 6 episodes, 6 episode series will launch all of them at once. It's an event. That's how they're kind of tagging it. And I think that's really smart in this case, especially because I think if we were weekly releasing, you're right. I think two, I loved two a lot. And I think three, like they're good episodes. Like they're actually some really great stuff there. Um, but I think if we were just doing like weekly episode releases on those, you might lose
Yeah.
some people that like think it is going one way, or just like, oh, okay, like, I've kind of seen this with the first Sonic or whatever. Like those, you would get like a week long stretches of those comparisons being made
Yes.
and that discussion point. And then you would get to four, and yeah, you'd probably bring some people back in, but it's different. And with the context of having that and then where it goes from there and how things close out, I just think like it was smart. This was one that you want to have all of the context up front. And then you have people hit that episode, and there's no restriction. And you can lose people when you have those restrictions, depending on how something's laid out. So I think in this case, it works to its benefit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And it's funny because I'm a big advocate for the weekly releases. I like the weekly releases. Like I'm loving X-Men 97 right now.
Oh, so
It's
good.
it's it's must see TV every week for me. But this hit a sweet spot that I haven't seen often with streaming shows, where they're all releasing at the same time, but they still feel like episodes. Like
Hmm.
it didn't feel like a chopped up movie.
No.
And I and I like that. Like they felt like episodes. And it didn't feel it never felt like a low budget streaming Sonic movie. And I mean, this might have been I might have enjoyed this more than the first 2 Sonic movies, and I really enjoyed both of those.
Yeah, no, I will say I definitely actually put it right up there with those. And yes, part of it is just because it's Knuckles. But it's a credit to them. They've done such a good job of like that character feels real. That character feels like it's so funny to see them sitting side by side in car. You get a lot of those throughout the series, but you stop really looking at him like a cartoon character that's sitting next to a human. You just that all gets thrown out the window. Like you really just start to understand like, oh, this is just Knuckles and Wade. And it's a credit to them and what they've been able to flesh out of. I love that scene so much. The character. Um and so I have to say, yeah, I will hold it right there. And that does kind of lead to where I wanted to go here, because they like the first Sonic movies. They do a great job here of there are those fun Easter eggs, those homages to the games. There's one prolonged sequence that is huge for that. Um, and so, but there's a bunch, and I just always love the way of like when someone's willing to like make fun of themselves as well, and they're in on the joke, and the movies did a really good job of kind of capturing that tone, and we don't take it too seriously, and Knuckles does that as well. Do you think this is for, because the movies have done this really well, striking that balance of doing the fan service style stuff, but never letting it overwhelm the kind of mainstream family appeal of the movie. And here, do you think they've done that with this as well? Is this kind of towards one sector of the base or the other?
See, for me, I thought that they really restrained themselves on like the Easter eggy type stuff because I mean, us doing what we do for a living,
Right.
I'm watching and I'm going, okay, what's going to be in the background here? What's going to be? And
Yeah.
there really isn't. Like
Yeah.
there's more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles references
I
in
know.
this than like like Sonic, and you know what? That's honestly fine. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they restrain themselves until the one episode, and you touched on the scene, and we're not going to get into spoiler territory here because it almost feels like they held it back and they held it back and they held it back, and then it's like, here you go, and it's like, wow. So kudos to them. Like, that's, to me, that's striking the right balance. That's knowing when your moment is, and saving for it.
Yeah. I think you're right. And they decided to kind of s- they did like kind of decide, okay, we'd rather go big and do like one major thing as opposed to like 90, 90 like little things in the frame and stuff. And I personally, I actually think I prefer that ratio. I think I actually prefer that cuz I'm to the point now. Maybe it's cuz I'm slightly maybe it's because I'm doing this a minute, I've been blessed to do this a minute, but like I'm kind of like, like 100 things you didn't see. I'm like, I don't care. I only cared about 10 of them, you know what I mean? Like that's how I am, like. And so I feel like I've grown to that place, and so now I'm like, I'd rather just you save it and do something just really cool. And like, man, like 90 X-Men 97 is great about that, right?
Yeah,
Like they do that a lot, and so I'd rather you do that than a bunch of the little stuff. So the before we kind of head out here, would you want to see more series like this? And if so, who would you want to see it focus on next?
that's a tough question, honestly. I mean, listen, if they keep the quality this high, I'm in. I'm sold. Like, I love I've loved Sonic for decades now, but I love this Sonic
Yeah.
especially. Like, at this point, like, they've won me on this Sonic and this Knuckles and this Tails and this Robotnik. So yeah, like, I mean, sign me up. Like, if the quality is going to be there, and they've said this, like, if we have a story to tell, we're going to do more. But it's going to come down to having the story. If they have the story and they have, this quality, I'm game, and I'm game for kind of whoever. God, it's a tough question. I mean, I feel like, and I mean, it's almost unfair to say this because we don't have Sonic 3 yet. I feel like Shadow is kind of like the most logical,
Yeah.
like, next spin-off. I don't want to say that
Makes
before
sense.
we see Keanu Reeves as Shadow. Like, I'm sure it's Keanu, like, and it's this
Right.
universe. Like, I feel confident that it's gonna be good. I feel like that would be the most logical next point, unless they, decide to bring in some random, character like Team Chaotix or something.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, don't would I watch a Tales series? Absolutely. Do I
Yeah,
think
no
they
watch
have?
the Tale series.
Yeah, I mean, do I think they have a Tales, concept? I don't know, but I also didn't know
Right.
that we were gonna get this, so who
True.
knows? You know?
I Yeah, I agree with you. I think Shadow is probably the most um I guess kind of the biggest potential for one now. Like it's kind of right there, right? Like after because that's how it worked with Knuckles. It was a perfect entry point. It was we introduced the character's part of the world, but like you still do, there's a lot of things we can round out and flesh out for the character. And Shadow will likely be the same way, right? Because it'll be sharing screen time with five other characters. So you only have so much time. I will say I wouldn't hate like a I don't know if it can be a full. I mean, and by the way, these are like full episodes, like 25-minute episodes. Like you get a lot too, I will say like if I got like a Big the Cat series of shorts, uh I'm a look,
You're like the
I'm a
first person
Dreamcast
I've ever
defender
heard.
for life. I'm a Dreamcast defender for life, okay? I love Sonic Adventure and I love Big the Cat. I pick him in every stupid Sonic game, any racing game. I pick Big.
You're the
And
only
he's.
Big the Cat fan on the planet. Like people at Sega don't
I
like Big the
love
Cat.
fishing with Big.
I
He's
did
great.
like fishing with him in Frontiers. I will say that.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a look. He's. Can we just say he has a lot of room for growth.
Yeah,
He
sure.
has a
Yep.
potential. The potential's there. Someone just has to tap into it. I think a series of shorts would be great. Um, I also think like other characters, right? I mean, the Sonic universe has actually grown quite a bit. I mean, the games keep kind of introducing new characters to the mix and stuff.
We just got a new
So
kid.
I
We got
mean,
a
yeah,
kid last year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like there's room for growth and but yeah, I would love a series of shorts. Look, if they can do what did you watch the Baymax shorts that
I did
Disney
not.
did?
No.
Oh my god, there was like
I'm
6 of
gonna
them
fire up Disney Plus now. I don't know what he says.
and they had like a whole interconnected like story. Like it was actually like yeah, they were shorts, but they were like an interconnected story, had like a finale to the short. Like it was done so well. You could do something like that with Big. I don't know if he can support like I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if he can support a full, 30-minute
Yeah, that
six
might be
episode
tough.
count. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
I
Okay,
could
it's a
see
lot.
like I could see Big the Cat shorts. I'll grant you. But I don't know I don't know that you could get like a 25-minute, like 6-episode Big the Cat series.
I feel like I won you over, and I feel like that's a victory. I love it. So yeah, before we head out, any kind of, parting thoughts, what you want people to know about the series and kind of go from there?
I would just say, go in with an open mind. It's like I said, man, it really threw some haymakers at me. It was funny, and that's another thing that's kind of depressing. There's not a lot of solid comedies out there anymore. The kind that I grew up with, and it really is a road trip comedy. Like it's
Mhm.
almost like Sonic Universe Tommy Boy. And that's I didn't expect that, but man, I happy with it? Absolutely. So, yeah, go in with an open mind and you might be surprised.
Yeah, agreed. And also like I think the first episode is one of those really good testing episodes of like put some, whether it's your kids or if you got someone who's kind of like on the fence. Like I've been trying to do that more with Ember. Like when I watch stuff, like obviously like not Game of Thrones, but but like when I watch stuff that's like in the ballpark, I go like, let me see, and like that's how she became an X-Men '97 fan. By the way, she watches every single episode. Now there are some that I've had to go like, yeah, we can't watch that one. We'll watch the first episode again. But like she's still become a fan through that, and I've learned that like this is such a great entry point for people because Sonic and Tails are still involved. It is still a Knuckles and Wade story, but they're still involved, and so it's a great entryway. You might end up with a big Knuckles fan at the end of this, and really that's just a win for the
Wade
world.
Whipple if you didn't already like him.
He's so I'm like I think Mark really touched on a thing of like he gets so much to do in this, and it's
He
awesome.
steals
It,
the
it
show.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
And like real character stuff too,
Yeah.
and also just the comedic timing's on point. And he had me rolling a couple of times, but yeah, the some real growth stuff too. So there's a lot. I think this is a great one for the whole family, and I hope people tune in because I'm with you. I want to see this universe grow, and I want to see us get more things like this when they have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
And it shows here. So well, thank you guys, Fred. Thank you everyone for joining us here. Of course, this is one of our many amazing comic book nation shows. We have Quick Save, the core show on Thursday. We have Anime Initiative on Tuesday. We have, well, for me, we have Comic Book Nation's The Pull List, where we talk comics all the time. We also have our main show where we do everything for geek culture on Friday. So make sure to check out there. If you are a huge fan of Pokemon, Mark is also part of, you want to plug the Pokemon show?
A Wildcat podcast has appeared. It's a
Hey,
great show.
hey!
Yeah. And if you're a Pokemon fan, you got to tune in because there's just a lot of passion on that show. So
Yeah, and you want to hear Mark talk about Pokemon. Come on.
Me too.
And then of course and then of course, if you want to talk all things Marvel, Phase Zero is also on Wednesday. So I don't really feel like there's a lot that we don't have you covered on. Until next time we get to talk about Sonic. Peace. Deuces.